Hello and welcome back to Steaming with Steve. Today we're going to go through how strings work in Python. So strings are basically text and there's individual characters that are bound together. And that's basically what we're going to unpackage and see all the cool little functions that you can do in Python. So to start, let's go. So some of the learning intentions we want to cover today, we want to understand the concepts of strings in Python and their practical applications. We then want to learn how string functions like the length function works, which is len, and string splicing, which allows you to chop the string up. We then want to apply the knowledge of strings into some various challenges and scenarios, and then work out how string data structures work, and the links between that and lists and arrays. So at the very beginning, when we started this course, we talked about how strings are a data type. Well, it's sort of not true. So this is where the bit of the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment is happening, where I told you the truth, but it was from a certain point of view. So strings are actually not data types, they are data structures. So another way of thinking them, they're actually a list of characters. So when we did lists, they're not a data type, it's an array or a grouping of these individual characters. And what happens is the easiest way to think of a string is it's the individual characters, but they've got a string connecting them all so that you know that they're all connected. So in Python, there's a whole heap of different data types, which we've covered. So there's integers, there's floats, there's strings, and then lists. A string is actually a sequence type. So it's very similar to a list where it has this structure behind the scenes. So the first challenge using coding bat is we're going to try and do this, which is basically Bob. So we're going to be given a string named Bob and return the string of hello Bob by adding it together with the other bit of string. Now my hint with this is try and use the plus code and see how you go. Awesome, so let's open it up and have a go. Get this open. Here we go. So here's the hello name with Bob. And it's pretty easy, we're just going to go straight to return. And we want to return the string hello, space, plus the name that was given, plus an exclamation mark. So now we should have Bob with all those things added in, which is pretty cool. Awesome. So that's pretty much all you needed to do that. So you just literally do a thing called string concatenation, which is where you add the name in and join them together. So given two strings A and B, return the result by putting them together in the order A, B, B, A. So hi, bye returns hi, bye, bye, hi. So we've got make ABBA. So let's jump into that. Here we go. So this one here, we want to return A plus B plus B plus A. Let's put the right spaces in. Run that. And there we go. So basically that's how easy it is to do string concatenations, particularly when you have the variables that go with it. Cool. So then the next one, a web is built with HTML strings like greater than less than symbols I and then /I. That tells you whether or not the text is going to be italic. So in this example, the I tag makes I and then /I, /I, and then which is surrounded by the word yay. So given the tag and the word string, return the HTML string with tags around the word. So we've got I, and then, it is /I, and then, yeah. So basically make tags is the name of the function. We've got the tag at the start, and then the word. So just pause the video, jump onto the link, and have a go there. Cool, so here's the code. Basically, we want to return a string. And then what happens here is we want to go less than, plus the tag, plus greater than, plus the word, plus less than symbol, and then backslash plus the tag plus greater than symbol. Now let's run that and see what happens. Awesome. That's using string concatenation. Again, should be pretty straightforward now. So the idea is literally just binding these different strings together with the variables and then putting in the plus symbol each time as you go. So if we want to unpackage the difference between a data type and a data structure, a data type like integers, floats, and booleans are very simple. So that they're a kind of variable that's used throughout your programming, which we've done so far, and they can only hold values, not data. So the data size is a lot less. So the values that they hold are either true or false, numbers, or decimal numbers. And then the really interesting thing is they have no special functions built into them. A data structure like strings and lists are a little bit more complex. So a data structure is like a collection of the different data types. And inside that, you can hold different kinds and types of data within the single object. So for a string, for example, we can do some really neat stuff. And then the best bit about it is there's some special functions that are actually built in to those functions. So much like when we press turtle and we went turtle.forward, you can access some interesting functions inside of the code. For the string functions, there's a whole heap. These are the ones that I thought were kind of interesting. So you can literally have the variable stored as x, and you can then go x.capitalize and it will convert every single character into uppercase. You can then do count, that returns the number of times a specific value occurs inside the string. You can find, so you can look for the value inside of the string. You can change it all to lower, you can change it all to upper, you can split, you can swap the case, you can replace A and B, and then you can strip. One thing that you need to think about though is when you do any of these conversions, you need to either override the string or store it in a new string. So these functions will do the action, but they return a value each time. So they don't actually manipulate the current value of what's inside the string. Cool. So create a function print3 case that takes the string value and returns a string in 3 different ways. So we're going to go upper, lower, and swap the case. So just pause the video there and let's see what happens. Cool. So what you should have done is something like this. So printing out print3, so it takes in the value, then it prints out the upper version of it, the lower version, and then the swap case. And then just to prove that that works, let's open up idle. And I'm just going to type into the interpreter because it's not that complex. So we're going to go def print3 case, and then a value that gets inputted into it. And then I'm going to print the value that was inputted into uppercase by using that function, much like the turtle function that we've done before. Then I'm going to print the value dot lowercase, and then I'm going to print the value dot swap case. Now, if I use that new function that I've just made, so print3 case, and I type in Superman, bam. So it goes through and changes it all into uppercase, all into lowercase, and then what happens is any uppercase letters get swapped to lowercase and vice versa. Pretty cool. So strings, we've talked about this before, way back. When you're running a race, do you start at 0 meters or 1 meter into the race? So you should always be starting at 0. Okay, so this is the same as with the way that a string works. So a string is like a list of letters, right? So inside the array, here's cat, and it has position 0, position 1, and then position 2. So even though this is the first letter, we would actually call this the 0th position. So a string is a list of letters, like cat would be stored as C, A, and then T. And we can access the part of the string by using list notation. Now this is basically where you use the variable and you use the square bracket and then you say the position. So for example, if you want to access the second letter, we would use x square brackets 1 because that's where the second letter is. It's in the first position, which is a little bit hard to get your brain around initially, but all you got to know is that you basically shift it 1 to the left. Cool. So just to prove to you that that works, if we make the string, I don't know, pick. If I want to access the first position, I actually go x square bracket 0 and press enter and I get a P. If I want to access the second letter, I go 1. And if I want to access the end, I make sure that I type it properly and then I get G. The other cool thing that you can do is by using negative notation. So if you want to go from the position variable, basically that's what the rules are. So you're literally just taking one away, but also we can go from the back of this. So if I go x -1, it gives me the last letter. If I go x -2, it gives me the I, and if I go x -3, it gives me the P, because that's the third character back, which is kind of cool. So how does a string work? Like I said, we have the string Superman, A at 0, sorry, this should be X at 0, be S, X at 1 would be U, and so on all the way down. So we're going to create a challenge now, basically create a function called print2 that prints the second character inside of a string, and then run the function on the string called Superman. So just pause the video, have a go, see if you can get that working. Cool, so what you should have found is something as simple as that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go print, def, print2, the value, snaky byte, and then we're going to print the value at position 1. And then that's going to print off whatever is stored in that second position inside the array. So we're going to go print2, Superman, and you get the U. Cool. So next thing, what we have is a thing called slicing. So instead of returning just a single character, you can actually return a group of characters by using this slicing technique. And it's pretty much not so hard. It's basically using the snaky byte and saying where you want to start and where the end slice is going to actually occur. So how slicing works on this string. So if you've got Superman there, if I wanted to go from a start position to an end, I actually just, if I wanted to go get the PER, I would start at 2, and then this is where it's not intuitive. It's not 4 where it ends. The slice happens just after the 4 at the 5th position. So when you say the ending, it's where the cut occurs. So to get PER, you actually have to put in X from 2 to 4. So slicing starts by stating the position ranges. So if we had Superman and I went print X to snaky byte 5, it would return the string per, because if the cut occurs here in between the R and the M. So just to prove how that sort of works, I go X is equal to Superman, and then I go X square brackets 2, 5, sorry, print X 2, 5, it will return the per. If I then go print X, no, let's try something else. 0, colon 6. Oops, sorry, got that at the beginning. Open that up. X 0, 6. Yeah, super, because the 6th position is there, but that's where the cut occurs. So it basically says where the last digit needs to come from. Now this notation is slightly confusing to start, but basically it's a program. It doesn't change, you do. You've got to get used to how that sort of operates. And it becomes a bit more intuitive the more that you play with it. So here's a new challenge on coding BAT. So given a string, return the string made of the first 2 characters. So string hello yields he. If the string is shorter than the length of 2, return whatever there is. So X yields X, and the empty string yields an empty string. So here's the example. Hello returned he, ABCDFG returned AB, and then AB returned AB. So just pause the video, have a go, see how you go. Awesome. So what you should see here is we're literally just going to return straight away str square bracket, and we want to go from the beginning. So we're going from the 0th position all the way up to where the second cut occurs. And let's run that. Boom, that works. Now, just to mess with your head, the 0 is optional. If you want to start from the very beginning, you can actually use this notation, and then that will go from the very beginning and just cut off the, give you the tail, so cut off the head of the string, which is kind of cool. Awesome. So hopefully that's made a bit more sense what happens there with strings. So how do you find the length of the string? Super easy. We talked about that briefly at the start. You can use the len function. So if you go len of a string, it then returns the value of 3. So if there's CAT, you're returning the length of that, which is 3, because that's how long how many characters are actually inside of it. So just to show you that in Python, let's go again. Let's do the Superman one that we just did. So if I go to the len of x, it then returns 8. So that gives you a way of seeing how long a character is. So what's the length of the following strings? Just pause the video, see if you can get it. You can either use idle or just your own intuition. I'm going to use idle because just so that you can see what happens. So if I go len of cat is 3, go len chicken gives me 7. I go len of f gives me 1. Go len, we've done this before. Superman gives me 8, and then I go len gives me 0. Cool. So I hope that made sense what the length function does. Now you'll notice that this is a bit different. So you don't actually go the string dot len. You're actually injecting the string into the length function, which is a built-in function inside of Python. Now the len function works for strings, it works for lists, any sort of sequence values, and it gives you that sort of power that you can quickly just type len and then the function. So given two strings A and B, we're going to return a string in the short form, in the form short plus the long plus the short, with the shortest string on the outside and the longest string on the inside. The strings will not be the same length, but they may be empty, length 0. So hello, hi. Hi is the smaller one, so that goes first. So it needs to go hi, hello, hi. But then if you swap the position around, it should still go hi, hello, hi. Then if you got AAB, you should then go B, AAB. So what you should notice here, this combo string function will need to use a conditional statement. So just pause the video and we'll come back. Cool. So what you should find here with combo strings is a really neat if statement. So if we're checking the length of A compared to the length of B, so if A, the length of A is greater than the length of B, snaky bite, we're then going to return B plus A plus B. Else, we're then going to return A plus B plus A. Cool. So what happened here is we checked to see if the length of A compared to the length of B, and then that's basically what happens here. As a little bit of a programming interest, you actually don't need that. You can technically do this in 3 lines of code, because what's going to happen is if this is true, that gets executed. Otherwise, you always execute that. So that's another way that you can sometimes do this, just so that you've seen it, but you don't necessarily need to use that every time. I personally like writing else. That's just because it makes more sense for me, so I understand the story. So if this is true, do this, else do this. But it's up to you. Some other challenges. So given a string of even length, return the first half. So the string woohoo yields woo. So woohoo, hello there. I've got a Obi-Wan Kenobi quote. And then you've got A, B, C, D, E, F. So this is the first half of the string. So just pause the video, see if you can have a go at this first half string. Cool. So what we need to do here is we're going to go the first half. So we want to return, let's think about this, str from the front, and then the length of str divided by 2. Let's see if that works. Cool. So what happens here is I've used the length function inside to splice this string. So that gives you how long the position is. Now, some people might want to actually break this down. So you might want to say the mid position is equal to the length of the string divided by 2. So that makes that a bit more clearer for you. So then you've got the mid, and then you might want to also put 0 on the front. So then that makes it a bit clearer for you. But the idea is because the string starts from the start, you don't need it. So you're just cutting off the head, and then the tail is from that mid position, which is basically the halfway point, which is why we do length divided by 2. Cool. So that's how I did it when I wrote this PowerPoint. So slicing, does it always, how does slicing go from the start? Well, basically what happens is when we use the cut, what we can do is we can actually just chop off and get the head. So slicing from the start simply tells you where the cut is going to occur and then leaves A over. So if we have Superman and we do X at 2, basically the head gets popped off and you're left with permanent. Just so that you can see how that works in idle. If I go X is equal to Superman, and I go X square brackets, print X square brackets 2, you're left with permanent. So given two strings, return their concatenation except omit the first character of each. So the string will be at least length 1. So hello here becomes hello air. Java code becomes avoode, and then shortal Java becomes hot lava. So have a go at that code. Let's see what happens. And the trick with this is the more you practice it, you'll start seeing patterns. So hopefully it becomes a little bit easier. So because we're chopping off the top, so we want to return A, starting from the first position. So chopping it off, the 0. So the 0 doesn't exist anymore. And then snaky bite, and then everything afterwards. So then also we want to do B, starting from the first position, and then returning that. Let's see what happens. Cool, so it worked. So there's the code. Like I said, basically this is called slicing, where you chop off the head, and then you're starting from the first position, because remember the first position is actually the second character. Going from there. So how does slicing work from the back? Similarly, you can actually chop off from the reverse position by going backwards and counting in how many strings in that you want to do. So if we want to do -2 and then chopping that off, it basically will go back 2 positions and return AN. So we'll return everything from that position onwards, which is kind of cool. So have a go at this one. So given a string, return a string made up of 3 copies of the last 2 characters of the original string. The string will be at least 2 characters long. So just pause the video, have a go. Awesome. So what you should have found was this. So if we open it up, we're going to return from the string. We're going to go from the back of the string and then use snaky bite. So then that chops off everything else afterwards. So the -2 basically tells you the position that you want to start from. So you want to start from 2 in at the back and then just return the tail that's left over. Oop, that didn't work. Oh, and then we want to do 3 of them. Now there's a couple ways of doing this. I'm going to show you the hard way first, because we like doing the hard way. So we go -2, snaky bite. Actually, there's 3 ways. We'll do the 3. So we'll go then -2, snaky bite, and that returns it. So one way is you can go x equals str -2 snaky bite. And then instead of writing all that out each time, we've got a simpler variable. So we just literally go x plus x plus x. And that runs and works. A simpler way though is you can actually use the times function on a string. So if I go x times 3, which you may have remembered from before, it returns 3 times of 3 lots of the character. So if I did x times 30, it would do 30 lots of that, which is not right, but just so that you can see the example. So then we can go one step further. Instead of having 2 lines of code, we would return just straight in that times 3, which is kind of cool. So that's how you could do it all in one line. Awesome. So hopefully that's giving you some insight how that sort of looks. Cool. So second challenge, given a string, return a version without a first and a last character. So hello yields L, and then the last, the string length will be at least 2. So hello becomes L, Java becomes Av, coding becomes Odin. Pretty cool. So here we go. So we're going to return the last 2 characters. So this kind of merges, so this goes a little bit beyond what you've done before. So we want to go from the first position, and then this is what's really cool about Python. It's pretty intuitive. You then want to finish at the -1 position because you want to come in one. Let's see if that works. Cool. So the idea here is I've said where the start and then where the end position is, which is kind of cool. Awesome. So another way that you can also do this, just so you've seen it, is you could have done the length of the string and then -1. So then that tells you how long the string was, -1, and then that's where the cut needs to occur. But I personally like my idea here of just using the -1, which is a little bit more intuitive. So given an out string of length 4, such as less than, greater than, and a word, return a new string where the word is made in the middle of the out string. So we've got this word here, and we're going to inject yay into the center here. Then we're going to do woohoo inside of this, and then the word inside of this. Notice that the brackets have changed. So just pause the video and have a go yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return the out word. I want to start from the very beginning, but chop off at the second position. Then I'm going to add on the word. Then I'm going to add on the out position. But this time I'm going to start at the second position, because 2 is the third character, remember. And then let's see how that goes. Cool. So what you should have seen here, my code here is a little bit different, which is still the same. So this is the interesting thing with Python. As you grow, you start learning a few little tricks here and there. Yeah, so basically this is started from 0, but it's gone to the second position, the word, and then the out has just chopped off the tail at the end. So there's many different ways that you can sort this out. So some conclusion questions to think about. You've probably learned a lot here. Is how can your understanding of strings help in processing real-world data? What are some common mistakes to avoid while working with strings? And then how might you use strings in operations to, with different arrays, to organize data more effectively? So hopefully that's giving you some insight here. There's a Kahoot that's attached down the bottom here. There's also a lot of strings online resources. So there's a W3 Schools, which is really, really useful. I'd recommend having a look inside here. It goes through all the different things that you can do in Python, which might be useful before we keep going on to the next area. But yeah, hopefully that has helped. So I hope you've enjoyed and you understand now how strings work. If you have enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe down below, because it does help with this YouTube algorithm. and help get this message of how to teach Python to anyone. Thank you again, and see you next time with Steamer Steve. Adios.